Hello, everyone. Welcome to Camaplan's presentation live in the Camaplan offices every Tuesday. Self-directed IRAs 101. My name is William Mucker. I'm a client executive with Camaplan, and I welcome everybody in. And I'm excited to go over the basics of self-direction and take any questions that anybody may have throughout the presentation. So please feel free to use that chat function and let us know if any questions you have throughout the presentation. Again, I'm very happy to answer any questions. So before we get started, we have a brief disclosure to go through. We at Camaplan, including myself, we are not attorneys, tax professionals, or financial advisors. Everything in this presentation is strictly meant for educational purposes. If it comes to a time where you need advice in any one of those fields, we highly recommend you consult with your team of professionals. We're more than happy to be a part of that dialogue with your team to make sure everything is structured the way that you want. Once you find the investment that is right for you, we will help you facilitate that transaction, open your account, facilitate the transaction, and keep record of the transactions for your account. We will never call you about the next best investment opportunity. We're a neutral third-party administrator of IRAs. And then without further ado, let's get into it. So these are a few things that we're going to go over today. Basically, the different types of accounts that can be self-directed. What does self-directed mean? What can you invest into with a self-directed IRA? What you cannot invest into with a self-directed IRA? And then we'll wrap up with some minor tax considerations, and then we'll take some questions. So what is a self-directed IRA? Basically, self-directed is an adjective. You may go to Schwab or Fidelity or TD Ameritrade and say, and they may tell you you have a self-directed IRA. But what they mean by that is, yeah, you have a self-directed IRA in the terms that you can direct your investments into anything off of that list. With a truly self-directed IRA like the ones offered at Camaplan, there is no list. You find the investment that is right for you. You make sure you follow the prohibited transactions guidelines that we'll discuss later on in this presentation. Bring that into Camaplan, and we'll facilitate that transaction. But again, you'll go to a bunch of different people. Self-directed is just an adjective. Truly, the accounts you opened are traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, SEP IRAs, and some of the accounts we'll go over in the future slides. All the same rules apply. Contributions, distributions, prohibited transactions apply to self-directed IRAs as they do to IRAs that you may have with a broker. This is one of our clients' quote, a longtime client investing in what you know, understanding, and control versus using hope as your strategy. This is why a lot of clients come to us. They want to get out of the casino of Wall Street, and they want to invest into more tangible alternative assets that they use to make their passive income with their personal funds. They want to be able to utilize those same techniques with their retirement funds to help that grow in a quicker manner. And that's what we're here to do. We help facilitate those transactions and let our clients utilize the knowledge that they've accumulated with their personal investments in the same accounts that they use to grow their retirement savings. So what type of accounts can be self-directed? Like I said, self-directed is just an adjective. These are the true accounts that you'll be opening at Camaplan. So you have two different buckets. You have your tax-deferred and your tax-free IRAs. And retirement accounts. So in your tax deferred bucket, and to define tax deferred and tax free, I like to phrase it: would you rather pay the taxes on the seed or the crop? With the tax deferred IRAs, you're paying taxes on the crop, meaning the contributions you put in are not taxed or are tax deductible. And years down the line, when you go to take a distribution, you'll have to pay the taxes on that sum. And that includes your initial contributions and any earnings that you wish to take out at that time. Whereas on the tax-free IRAs, you're paying taxes on the seed. So what that means is your contributions are taxable. However, years down the line, when you're of an eligible age, you can take a distribution of those earnings and initial contributions, and that's tax-free in your pocket. So I'm a little partial to the Roth IRAs, but again, it's up to you and what your financial advisors and tax professionals advise you on. So on your tax deferred bucket, you have your traditional IRA with traditional IRAs, which is a personal account. Then you have spousal IRA. It's a little bit deceiving, this slide, but spousal IRAs can also be Roth IRAs. What that means is just if you have a working spouse and a non-working spouse. The working spouse is able to contribute on behalf of the non-working spouse into either a traditional or a Roth IRA, and then that's where that term spousal comes into. Then you have your employer-linked IRAs, your SEP IRA, and your simple IRA. SEP stands for Simplified Employer Pension IRA, and simple is Savings Incentives Match Plan for employers. And then furthermore, you have your defined benefit plans, um, which there aren't many of now. And then you have your defined contribution plans like your 401ks and your 403bs. Uh, Moving over to the other side on the tax-free accounts, you have your Roth IRA. This is the personal tax-free account, similar to the traditional IRA. It's its counterpart. Then you have your health savings account, which is the only account of its type where the contributions are tax deductible. And then years down the line, the distributions can be tax-free if used for a qualified medical expense. You also have your educational savings account. ESAs are also referred to Coverdell's. And then you have your Roth portions of your 401ks. Some plans allow you to make Roth contributions. Ask your plan administrator if your plan is one of those. And those are just the counterpart of the tax deferred 401ks. So like I said, all of these can be self-directed. Self-directed is just an adjective. And to backtrack just a second, any investment you can make out of your traditional IRA or your SEP IRA, you can make in your Roth IRA. While the funds are in the account, there's no rules against making an investment out of one IRA that you can't make into the other. 401k versus IRA. This slide is a little bit misplaced. It probably should be a little bit later in the presentation, but this is just defining the definition or defining the differences between 401ks and IRAs. The main differences tend to be the contribution limit, which you can get up to a similar contribution limit with something like a SEP IRA or simple IRA. 401ks are the only type of account where you can take a personal loan from, either $50,000 or 50% of the account balance, whichever of those two numbers is less, where you cannot take loans from an IRA. And then lastly, UDFI rules or unrelated debt finance income rules do not apply to solo 401ks where they may apply to your self-directed IRA. We'll go over UDFI a little bit later down in the presentation. Again, this might be a little bit earlier in the presentation than it should be, but we'll adjust that in the future. Here we have 4 different types of money, and what do you get to keep? So imagine you have you're a salary worker, you get a 1099, your W-2 salary. In this specific instance, you have you earn $100,000 through that, but you're paying federal, state, local, and these may vary depending on the location, whether you're in a city like Philadelphia or New York, and the specific state. Obviously, these numbers will vary. And then on the other, in addition to that, you have your Social Security, Medicare, and you and your employer are both paying into that. So in this specific situation, you're paying about 40% in taxes. So that $100,000 you earned, you're only keeping $60,000, where $40,000 are going to Uncle Sam to help him keep the lights on. And then in another avenue, you do have your passive income. With this type of income, you're not paying the Social Security and Medicare taxes that you and your employer have to pay. So you see that 15.3% you're not paying. So that's where we get the $75,000 as opposed to the $60,000. So it's a little bit more leniently taxed. This is if you have a rental property you're earning rent from. You have a loan out. You're getting interest payments for that loan. That's slightly less tax. So you're earning $25,000, or you're only paying $25,000 of taxes as opposed to the $40,000 with the W-2 salary. And then at the bottom, you do see the tax deferred and tax free accounts. Both of those accounts, while within the account, earned $100,000 and keeps $100,000. However, there's an asterisk next to the tax deferred account, because when that individual with the tax deferred account wants to take out that $100,000, they're going to be taxed at their current tax bracket on those funds that they take out. Where the Roth IRA, that $100,000 that when that time to take a qualified distribution is $100,000 tax free. So basically, what kind of money do you want to be investing with at the moment? talk this over with your tax professional, show them this slide, see what they have to say about it. This is another visual. This is at a 10% rate of return in a 30% tax bracket over 40 years. So you have three different avenues of investing. You have your taxable income, your W-2 funds that you invest. In blue, you have your tax deferred or traditional IRA funds in light green, and then you have your tax-free or Roth IRA funds in the dark green. So over 40 years, you can see that the individual who invested with their W-2 funds only ends up making $700,000, where it's important to note both the traditional IRA and Roth IRA both earned $2.2 million. However, that individual who had the traditional IRA or the tax deferred account that they made their investment from, they had to pay about $700,000 of taxes when they went to take the distribution. Whereas the Roth IRA in dark green, that's $2.2 million they're taking out tax free. So again, you can see why I'm a little bit partial to the Roth IRAs. Now, the meat of the presentation, what can I invest into? So we're going to go a little bit quick through this. Just going over the basics. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. We can get on a phone call together if you'd like as well. If you can't think of the question right now, but it comes up later, I'll also have my contact information at the end of the presentation for those that are interested. So the biggest question I get all the time when I'm speaking to prospective investors is, what type of investments can I make out of my self-directed IRA? So the big things that we see our clients invest into every day are things like real estate, private lending, or notes and mortgages, private placements, and precious metals. We also see other things as well. I've seen people buy bees and sell honey. I've seen people invest into trees and earn profit from the fruit. So as long as you're following the IRS prohibited transactions guidelines, all of these are very easy, and we can help you through the process. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions at any time about any of these investments and how it works through CamaPlan. So the big thing we see a lot of real estate investors invest into is owning property in your IRA. Your IRA can own property. It's a separate entity from you, similar to a trust. They can be single family homes. It could be multi-family and apartments, condominiums. It doesn't have to be residential. It could be commercial. You can also purchase plots of land, undeveloped land, and buy and hold that in your IRAs. And it doesn't have to be domestic properties. It could also be foreign properties. We just advise that you're familiar with the laws over there in the country that you look on investing into. Another thing people invest into, a very passive sort of investment, is through private lending. You can choose to secure that note through a mortgage. Some people have it unsecured for whatever reason they may find to do that. You can purchase, invest into convertible notes where shares of that or terms of that note turn into shares of a company later down the line. You don't have to originate the note. You can purchase notes on the secondary market and get discounted notes and things like that. Again, your IRA is a separate entity, so it would be a lender on that note. It wouldn't be you personally lending that money. I would say this is probably the biggest asset class we see. So before Apple or Alphabet or anything like that went public, you couldn't invest into them with your IRA unless you did it through a self-directed IRA through what's called a private placement. So these are companies, privately traded companies that aren't listed on the stock market. Your IRA is purchasing and owning shares of these companies and earning interest or dividend payments from those investments, if that's how that particular investment is structured with your asset provider. Another asset class clients use to diversify their retirement portfolio is precious metals. So your IRA can hold gold, silver, palladium, platinum, and metals like the precious metals composite, which is a combination of those previous four metals. It can also purchase specific coins and bullions depending on the quality and the type of coins. And you would work with a specific precious metals dealers that sold these investments, where your IRA would purchase them, and they would be stored at a a secure depository because you couldn't have physical receipt of these metals if your IRA owned them. So what can you not invest into with a self-directed IRA? The main thing is any hard to value assets, and that falls into collectibles and life insurance. You can purchase you can get a canvas and throw paint on it, and somebody might say it's worth $2 million, and I may say it's worth $2 because I don't know anything about art. The IRS doesn't want you to have these assets inside of your IRA, again, because they're hard to value. They want things like stocks or real estate, something that's a little bit easier to be valued within the IRA when it comes to reporting at the end of every year. However, at the end, you do see in the collectibles and life insurance, metals and gems are mentioned as a collectible. However, there is an exception for the metals that I mentioned in the previous slide. U.S. government minted gold, silver, palladium, platinum, and certain coins. Another thing that's prohibited by the IRS to be done out of an IRA, and this is not just self-directed IRAs. Again, these rules apply to all IRAs. Is any personal use or self-dealing. The investment that you make has to be an arm's length transaction strictly for investment purposes. You cannot be receiving any benefit from the IRA and its investments, nor can you be providing a direct benefit to the IRA and its investments. So, in the example of real estate, self-dealing is you can buy from yourself. You can sell a property that your IRA owns to yourself. And if your IRA owns that property at any percentage, you cannot stay in that property or live in that property. It has to be strictly for investment purposes, and you cannot be receiving any benefit from that transaction personally. To go a little bit further into that, you are not the only person who cannot be receiving or providing those benefits to the IRA. There are some disqualified persons as well. Of course, that includes you as the account holder and anybody of lineal, ascent, or descent of you, parents, grandparents, children, and grandchildren, and any entity that these people own 50% or more of or have managing power of. So anybody in blue in any of those entities that they may own or have managing power of are disqualified from receiving a benefit from the IRA or providing a direct benefit from the IRA. So if you had a property that your IRA owned a property, you couldn't hire your son's painting company to go in there and paint the walls. Your IRA has to go out there and pay somebody who's going to be charging a competitive price that'll have to be paying taxes on the income they earn from that work. Anybody in blue is disqualified. However, anybody in green is okay. So any lateral relationships or relatives like aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, nieces, nephews, they're all okay. You can rent to them. You can sell to them. Um, they're not prohibited. So we have a good article of this on the website. If you have any questions about this or want to go through anything you're looking to do in specific, feel free to give me a call if you're not interested in asking the questions on this presentation. I'm happy to go over that with you. So how does the process look? So it's a pretty quick process from start to finish. Um, on average, I tell people from the date you open the account to the date you make your first investment, it's about 3 weeks. And the way that breaks down is to open the account takes about 15 minutes. You can do it online. Open it today just to get it open so it's ready for you when you're looking to make that investment. I can walk you through the process and answer any questions about the application as well. Again, it takes about 15 minutes to open it up online. You'll get an account number right away, and then you can work on funding the account. The way you do that is one of three ways. You can make a contribution to the account like you can to any other IRA. You can transfer from another existing IRA that you currently have. This is a situation where we actually can request the funds on your behalf, provided a transfer form that you'll complete for us and a statement of the account you're transferring from, and then we'll go ahead and request that from your current custodian. And the last way you can do it is through a rollover from an employer plan, where whereas we can't request those funds on your behalf like we can from an IRA. Once you have that account number, you can take that to your plan administrator with your 401k and initiate that rollover directly with them. They'll send a check to us. For transfers and rollovers, we tell people to expect on average about 2 weeks for that to take place. We process all transactions on our end within 2 to 3 business days of receiving paperwork in good order. However, on the other end, there are another number of factors that could play into that, but on average, it's about 2 weeks. Once the account's been funded, you'll receive an email notification, and at that point, you can start working and identifying the investments that are right for you. You can even do that before the funds have come over, and just so you're prepared. identify a property that you want to invest into, identify a lender, or excuse me, a borrower you want to lend to, and then what you'll do is you'll complete our asset purchase directive and submit to us the supporting documents for that investment. So, for example, if you were looking to purchase a property with your IRA, you would go ahead and get an agreement of sale where the purchaser on that property is not you, it's the IRA, which again is a separate entity from yourself, similar to a trust. So you'll have that agreement of sale made out to the IRA as the purchaser. What you'll do is you'll initial next to the signature line for that IRA. Your initials let us know that you've read and approved of that agreement. Send that into Camaplan with our asset purchase directive. We'll sign on behalf of the IRA and send those funds to the title company based off the instructions on our asset purchase directive that you completed. Then you'll be able to receive any rental income or profits from the sale of the property. That'll go back into the IRA. Then you can choose to reinvest those and keep going. So on average, again, we process everything on our end within 2 to 3 business days of receiving paperwork in good order. So from start to finish, from the date you open your account to the date you make your first investment, on average, it's about 3 weeks. But that could be a little bit quicker. It could take a little bit longer, depending on usually the funding section in the middle. But we help hold your hand through that process if you have any questions. And yeah, that's the process. What does Camaplan do? Why do you need us? So the IRS requires that you have a third party keep record of the transactions for your IRA and report to the IRS at the end of every year the value of the holdings in that IRA. That's what we do. We're a neutral third party. We don't sell you anything. We don't give you any advice. We're not tax professionals or financial advisors. And then we're part of that core team of professionals. So if you have financial advisors or tax professionals, bring them into the office. Get us on a conference call together. Get us on an email thread together. We'll make sure that we'll follow the advice of your professionals and make sure the investments process is structured to how your professionals see fit for your goals. And yeah, that's why you need us. Some frequently asked questions we have that I get all the time when I'm helping people open accounts or get those accounts funded. We answered some of these through the presentation. What is the timeline to open and fund a self-directed IRA? Again, to open in about 15 minutes. To fund it, on average, about 2 weeks, but that could take a little bit longer. It could be much quicker based off some factors. How do I fund an IRA account? Again, that's either via contribution, a transfer from another existing IRA, or a rollover from an employer plan like a 401k or 403b. Who signs the paperwork when I invest? We went over this. We sign the paperwork on behalf of the IRA's third-party administrator. But we won't do that unless you initial that paperwork, and that lets us know that you've read and approved of the agreement, because we're not reviewing the terms to make sure it's a good investment for you, because again, we're not financial advisors. Can I use my IRA for the down payment of property I want to own personally? No, you cannot. This is a common question. The IRA has to be a percentage owner of the property, and whatever percentage it owns of that property is a percentage of expenses, including the down payment it can pay of that property. So if you want to pay 100% of the down payment of the property, your IRA has to own 100% of the property at the end. You can't personally own it in that situation. Can my IRA receive a loan to purchase a property? Yes, you can. It has to be through what's called a non-recourse loan. Basically, what a non-recourse loan is it's a because the loan isn't being made to you, you can't personally guarantee that loan. And then in addition to that, the only recourse the lender has, which is why it's called a non-recourse loan, is usually to go after the property that the loan was made to or secured to. They can't go into your other IRAs at Camaplan, other accounts at Camaplan. They can't go into your other IRAs outside of Camaplan, and they can't go into your personal holdings. It's only directly attached to the account that the loan was made to. And then there's some considerations you want to talk to your tax professional about with the unrelated debt financed income, or UDFI tax, which we'll go over in the next slide. Can I manage the property my IRA owns? It depends on your definition of managed. Now you can go in there and pick the color of the paint. You can pick the tenants. However, you just can't go in there and paint the walls. You can't go in there and do any sweat equity where you would have to pay somebody else in the situation, because that would be providing a direct benefit to the IRA and its investments, which would be considered a prohibited transaction. What do I do if slash when there's a capital call? If you have a capital call, some private placements or some funds are called capital, where you have initial terms where you do a commitment to that investment, and then you have called capital throughout the investment. It's really easy. You just log onto your online portal, submit a payment request, and attach a copy of the capital call, and we process those as quickly as one business day from receipt, and we'll send them based off your instructions on that payment authorization. We'll go over this quickly because again, we're not tax professionals, and I do recommend you talk it over with your tax professionals if you're concerned about this. But usually, people that end up having to pay these taxes, which again aren't very common, are okay with it because they're still using it to grow their retirement plan quicker than they would be on the stock market, and they would have to pay the taxes outside of the IRA if they were doing it that way anyway. So again, it really just depends on the lens you view it in. The two ways, usually IRAs don't pay taxes, but in some instances they do. Those two instances are UBTI or UBIT, which stands for Unrelated Business Income Tax, as well as UDFI or Unrelated Debt Financed Income. UBIT or UBIT is when the IRS thinks you're running a business out of the IRA. Things that that would trigger that usually are flipping properties. What the IRS says is a flip, they'll never say. Their definition could vary. Some people have different opinions on what that is, but those people aren't the IRS. So definitely just talk it over with your tax professional if you're thinking about flipping properties. And then the other thing is the other thing that can trigger UBIT is developing on undeveloped land. So if your IRA purchases a plot of land and you want to build on that, that could trigger the UBIT or unrelated business income tax. Another thing, the other tax, UDFI or unrelated debt finance income. Remember that's that loan we were talking about where you were looking to get a mortgage for the property you want to own from the IRA. If you did go that route, you would have to pay this unrelated debt finance income. This is when you receive financing for an investment you want to make out of the IRA. Again, talk it over with your tax professional if you're looking to go one of these routes. See how much you'd have to pay, and the process is pretty easy to go through. But yeah, just something to take into consideration when you're looking to make one of these investments. And if any of the information you want to scrutinize any of the information in this presentation, it was all pulled from these different publications and articles. If you have trouble sleeping at night, I recommend keeping it by your bedside. It might help with that. And yeah, just to prove that we didn't pull this information out of thin air, make anything up. You can view these articles, give them a scan, and see everything that we talked about today in the presentation. And then if you have any questions, if you don't want to put them in the chat now, if you want to talk about them offline, give me a call, send me an email. I'm always happy to talk to clients, potential investors, and see what they're thinking, what routes they want to take, and make sure that everything's clear to them where it can be clear from our perspective, not being tax professionals or financial advisors. Again, do not hesitate to give me a call, shoot me an email. Let's talk about it. Now, if anybody has any questions now, I appreciate the people that attended and watched the presentation up to this point. Even if you're watching the recording of this at a later date, please put them in the chat now. If nobody has questions, we'll just wrap it up. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to any questions you may have. Just feel free to use that chat now. I'll give some people some time because I know some of these questions are a little bit longer to type out. So we'll give people a few seconds, and if no questions come in, we'll wrap it up for the day. But I'll keep my contact information on the screen if people want to take that down and reach out to me after the fact. All right. It looks like we don't have any questions coming in. So I want to wrap up one more time and thank everybody who came and attended live. And anybody who may be watching this recording in the future, we do these every week, every Tuesday. So please feel free to stop by if you want to have uh, have any questions answered or want to go through the presentation again. But yeah, thank you everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.